He's the only fighter with the skills to dethrone the pound-for-pound king, Islam Makhachev, yet people keep sleeping on him. When Arman Tsaryukyan first locked horns with Islam, he was just 22, a young buck with raw talent, but lacking that big league experience. He took the fight on short notice and still gave the Russian what might be the toughest test of his career, barely falling short on the judges' scorecards. But since that unfortunate loss, the Armenian assassin has polished his grappling credentials to perfection. His striking looks sharper than ever, and he gained enough experience in the UFC to settle the score with Makhachev in a rematch. So, let's dive into the overlooked truth about Arman Tsaryukyan that nobody seems to notice. By August 2018, 13 unlucky fighters had already tasted the bitterness of defeat at the hands of Arman Tsaryukyan. The young Armenian's favorite hobby seemed to be leaving a trail of broken jaws and shattered dreams on the regional circuit. UFC matchmakers couldn't ignore such talent, so they signed Tsaryukyan to the organization. In a perfect world, every newcomer would get a manageable opponent to welcome them to the big leagues. However, that wasn't the case for Tsaryukyan. Instead, he was matched against one of the UFC's best, Islam Makhachev. At the time, Makhachev was still climbing the rankings, and nobody knew he would eventually reach the pound-for-pound #1 spot. Even so, he was already 4 years into his UFC career with 6 fights under his belt. Facing Islam in his promotional debut was a mountain to climb, but taking the fight on short notice without a full camp made Arman's mission almost impossible. It was as if the UFC was throwing a cat into a lion's cage, but once the fight started, it was clear this cat was actually a Siberian tiger. The two action fighters engaged right out of the gate, trying to figure out who's packing more. Although Makhachev is used to his takedowns coming easily, he stumbled upon a hard nut to crack. Not only did Arman defend the takedown, but he also managed to reverse his position and threatened to take the Russian down himself. However, Islam's experience came into play as he scored a beautiful outside leg trip takedown. Although Makhachev's ground game is a snake pit for many, Arman was quite the mongoose. They were back on their feet and the Russian attempted to bring Arman to his realm again. But the Armenian proved tougher than a $3 steak and scrambled to a better position. Islam was hoping to decapitate Tsaryukyan with the knee, but in no time he realized that he was no longer the uncontested leader of the wrestling hierarchy. Not having a full camp and lack of experience started to have its impact in the second round, as taking Makhachev down was as difficult as trying to break steel with a glass hammer. The Russian gained momentum and started imposing his game on the opponent. The Armenian threatened with a Kimura, but Islam was too experienced to be submitted like that. Tsaryukyan aborted the mission and used the Kimura as a distraction to bring the battle on the feet. In the third, both fighters demonstrate the beauty of Russian Sambo and Dagestani wrestling, displaying a relentless exchange of scrambles and takedowns. However, it appeared that Makhachev had a slight advantage in the grappling exchanges as his UFC experience came into play. As the close encounter came to its conclusion, victory was awarded to Islam Makhachev. Nevertheless, they were awarded Fight of the Night bonuses, and Tsaryukyan proved he belonged to the big league. Now, let's not forget that Arman Tsaryukyan was a still developing fighter at 22 who took the fight on short notice. If he had more years of experience and a full camp, this bout could have gone in a completely different direction. Ever since this loss, the Armenian assassin has been on a mission, climbing up the rankings by playing with his opponent's lives all the way to the top to avenge his loss to Makhachev. At this time, he was still just a powerful wrestler who rarely kept the fight standing. However, entering the UFC required occasionally changing gears, and with that, Tsaryukyan had no other option but to polish his striking credentials. Sure enough, he did precisely that. Eager to put his loss behind him, the Armenian assassin was back to action in 3 months to face Olivier Aubin-Mercier, a BJJ and judo black belt with slick submission in his pocket. Arman muscled the foe down to the floor, and once he got a hold, it was like getting stuck in cement. In the second, Olivier had his moment by delivering a vicious knee, which Tsaryukyan ate for breakfast. Such a knee could have knocked out anyone but not Arman. In the following round, the adversary tried beating Tsaryukyan in his own game, and he paid the price by losing the position and hitting a dead end on the floor. The Armenian turned on the ground and pound shredder as usual and blasted the opposition with shots from the top until the final horn. The referees had no headache deciding who was the winner. Next on Arman's hit list was Davi Ramos, a high-level BJJ black belt and multiple times BJJ world champion. Although Davi's ground game was as dangerous as falling into the lion's den, Tsaryukyan had no problem taking that risk to beat the adversary in his realm. In the second, the Armenian dragged the foe down faster than an anchor dropping to the ocean floor. The fight was back on the feet, but Arman had no problem showcasing his striking superiority. For the rest of the bout, they traded with shots where Tsaryukyan had the slight advantage in the artillery exchanges, which resulted in him edging the foe on the judges' scores. On January 24, 2021, the Armenian was set to lock horns with the 8-1 Matt Frevola, a United States Army Reserve lieutenant. Arman's takedowns were like a freight train, unstoppable and devastating. He introduced the American to the infamous Armenian Airlines and kept taking him down at will. Tsaryukyan outmuscled Frevola into a decisive victory, and even he knew who the main character in this story was. And this was the point where Arman Tsaryukyan turned from a dominant wrestler to a dangerous finisher who can turn someone's lights off instantly. The Armenian realized that dominating fellow competitors to one-sided decisions is not as impressive as closing the show, and he made some crucial adjustments that enhanced his hands into a lethal weapon. The next lightweight who got in the way was Christos Yargos, who was coming off a big Bravo choke submission victory over Sean Soriano. Tsaryukyan stalked his prey into an ambush, but instead, he was the one getting hunted. He left the dangerous zone and was ready to trade with dynamites on the feet. The Spartan threw a kick, which Arman countered with a vicious left hook that would make even Alex Pereira envious. The adversary was hurt, and Arman pounced like a predator that hadn't eaten in days, forcing the referee to wave the fight off. A new mythical fighter got unlocked, a wrestling powerhouse with scary knockout power. The following year, the heavy-hitting Armenian was scheduled to face Joel Alvarez, a submission wizard who rarely leaves it to the judges' hands. The battle hit the floor, and from there on, it was all Tsaryukyan. The Armenian was a real pit bull on the floor, tearing the unlucky fella apart with strikes. By the end of the round, turning his face into a Halloween mask. In the second, Arman wasted no time and bulldozed his opponent to the mat like a demolition crew on overtime. After pouncing tens of nails and turning the floor into a bloody mess, the referee stopped the torture seminar 2 minutes into the round. This was Arman's second performance of the night bonus in a row, and he was only getting started. On June 25, 2022, the Armenian was matched against Gamrot, a wrestling powerhouse from Poland. The violent dance began from the opening seconds. It was a high-stakes grappling exchange game, but every move came with bone-crushing force. In a closely contested bout that could have gone either way, victory was awarded to Gamrot. There was no time to grieve, and Arman was determined to end 2022 victorious. On December 17th, he accepted a fight against Damir Ismagulov, a former M1 global lightweight champion. The veteran instantly felt the difference in speed of thought and action, while Tsaryukyan kept showing the gap between himself and the rest of the contenders. The Armenian imposed his will on his opponent, dominating every aspect of the fight to a one-sided, unanimous decision victory. On June 17, 2023, Tsaryukyan was set to lock horns with Joaquim Silva, a dangerous finisher with dynamite in his hands. Arman wasted no time on appetizers and went straight to the main course, drawing the adversary into murky waters. The mat became his domain, and he ruled it like a tyrant. However, the big highlight arrived in the third, when Tsaryukyan wrestled the foe to the ground like a lion dragging down a gazelle. And once he adjusted to a mounted position, it was GG well played. This flawless performance set the stage for an epic clash with Benil Dariush next, another high-level BJJ black belt with nasty submissions. But when Arman delivered a knee followed by a vicious right hand, Benil's black belt got bleached in an instant. The whole affair took 64 seconds, and Tsaryukyan made a top-notch opponent look like he never fought before. And finally, on April 13, 2024, Arman Tsaryukyan was matched for the UFC lightweight title eliminator fight against the one and only Charles Oliveira, a guy who does not need an introduction. Trading shots with Oliveira on the feet is like playing Russian roulette, and spending time on the canvas with the Brazilian can be as dangerous as getting into an alligator-infested swamp. But the Armenian was ready to rumble. Oliveira attacked him with everything he had, attempting submissions from different positions to get the job done. Arman weathered the storm and survived the submission attempts as if he had an extra oxygen cylinder. And during that time, he retaliated with heavy blows to the head, which echoed through the arena. In the end, the outcome of this competitive clash was decided by the judges. Arman earned the biggest victory of his career, and by beating Oliveira, considered by many the best lightweight besides Makhachev, Tsaryukyan proved that he is ready to fight for the title next. However, the uncontested ruler of this division is his old foe, Islam Makhachev. Arman not only can become the next lightweight champion, but he also has the opportunity to avenge his first UFC loss. The question is, how much has Tsaryukyan improved over the years, and would that be enough to dethrone the pound-for-pound great Russian? As previously mentioned, when they first fought, Arman Tsaryukyan was only 22 years old and took that bout on short notice. Since then, there's no doubt the Armenian has made incredible strides in his fight game. Once known for his dominant wrestling, he's evolved into a knockout threat, and now no opponent is safe with him in the cage, no matter where the fight goes. But the thing is, Islam Makhachev has also improved significantly since they first met. Back then, they were evenly matched, and if Arman had a full camp and a bit more experience, he might even have emerged victorious. Now, the real question is, who has improved more since then, Makhachev or Tsaryukyan? Stylistically, Arman's wrestling and power pose a genuine threat to Makhachev. The Russian has been knocked out before, showing that his chin might not be as solid as expected, and one clean shot from Tsaryukyan could send him straight to La La Land. Arman, on the other hand, has only been knocked out once, almost 10 years ago when he was still a teenager. Over the years, he's proven he can take a punch and keep fighting, showing resilience tougher than a rusty old pickup truck. Even if Islam lands his best shots, Arman could likely eat them for breakfast and keep up the relentless pressure he's known for. In the end, it comes down to which fighter can implement his game plan better. We can expect a closely contested bout like the first time, or we might see Arman hurt Islam on the feet and finish him with ground and pound shots. While beating Islam Makhachev is easier said than done, no other UFC competitor has a better toolbox than Tsaryukyan to dethrone the Russian and claim the UFC lightweight title. And what do you fight fans think about this? Do you see Arman Tsaryukyan as the UFC's dark horse? Leave your thoughts in the comments and make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this.